Today I'd like to talk about Filemaker Pro. I'm opening up the solution Songtracker so that we can work within the structure of our files to explain a little bit of Filemaker Pro to you today. As I open up all the files, it ends up on the help file. I'm going to click Done, which will hide that file. I'm going to click the People file and the Data Entry button to take me to our basic data entry screen. From here, I'd like to explain a little bit about Filemaker Pro. Filemaker allows us to create a solution, which is a combination of a structure of files. So we have multiple files in the Songtracker solution: people, address, phones, song catalog, versions, royalties, licensing. Those are all different files in the system, appropriately named. In addition to files, so each file will have numerous layouts. A layout is a view of fields. So you'll notice we have this main data entry screen layout. If I click one of the buttons here, like Profile, you'll notice the left side of the screen doesn't change, but the right side does. So we have still the names and the contact information on your left, but on this is a separate layout that has this contact profile. If I hit Promo, it's like promotional information about each client. Details, different detail information. Live show is for agents and booking agents and managers can keep track about the live shows of their artists or writers. And if I click the People file, it's going to take me back to that main layout. So we'll start from here. But basically, it's a structure of files, layouts, and fields. These are fields. Each of these boxes is called a field. This is what a layout looks like to us when we're designing the product. So this is a field. It can be dragged and moved to wherever we want it. So these are the fields all across the screen. Now you won't be using this screen. This is kind of the background where we design it. But I just wanted to show you here, this field could go anywhere we want it. So now I'm back to the main data entry screen. Now I want to go through some of the modes. There's 4 modes in Filemaker. They're shown here under View. There are these top 4. I'm going to explain some of the basic menu commands that might be helpful to you when you're using Filemaker Pro or Songtracker together. You have the Browse mode, the Find mode, the Layout mode, and the Preview mode. Now again, the layout mode is the one you won't use, so I'll just show it to you once. And so if you ever find yourself on a layout like this and you go, what is going on? Just realize that down at the bottom here, it tells you what mode you're in. You can click on this, it'll show you the 4 modes. You never really want to be on the layout mode. Maybe a few years down the line, you might decide to customize something, but that would be very rare. So you're going to be in the 98% of the time, you're going to be using the Browse mode. So let's go back to Browse. And that would be this look. This allows you to browse through the records by clicking these buttons at the top, which is a status area up in here, which allows you to move through the records. And this little box is what we'll be concerned with. This tells you how many records are in the file and how many are in the found set. A found set is the number of records you find. So if we go, for example, into, let's go to Twyla here. If we go into the mode Find, first I'm going to copy paste Twyla here and go to the Find mode. It'll give me a blank screen. Now if I paste Twyla and press my Enter key or my Return key, it's going to let me come back to just that record. And you notice that it found one record within what's called the found set. Filemaker calls it a find instead of a search. It is a search, but it has a found set of records. Each record in the database is a different person. In a different file, like the song catalog, each record in the file would be a song or a copyright. So let's just deal with people now. We're in the People file and we're looking at various contacts. So we have a found set of 1. Let's click Show All, and that'll show 30. Now that shows us all of the records. when multiple records are found, we're able to click these arrow buttons and go through and look at various people in our database. Based on the type of person it is, it'll change layouts automatically. They're slightly different layouts. You'll see them shift once in a while. Let's stay on Twyla for now. So she's an author, so that gives us some music fields that are related to authors. So these are the 4 views. So we've done the browse mode, which is where we can click back and forth to record. Then we have a find mode, which is where we search for a record or a name or a person or a song, etc. When we're doing a look, we go to find. It gives us a blank screen. We type in Twyla, hit enter, and it finds Twyla. Okay. Under view, then the layout mode we stay away from. The preview mode I'll go into in just a minute, but that is a little different. That's something you don't use. You don't actually go to this mode because we've incorporated it into our scripts or our automated buttons. When you click a report, it'll automatically show you that report in the preview mode, because preview mode is designed to show you what something will look like if it's printed. So we won't use that on data entry screens, but more so on reports. So if I view a layout that is a report, now all our reports under Go to Layout are indented, you'll notice. All these capitalized layouts are data entry screen that are to the left justified. But if you see one that's indented, that just represents a report. So let's go to a contact list. Now, if I was to go down, you can also operate your modes from here at the bottom left. If I choose preview, it's going to show me what that page or report looks like printed before I print it. So it's helpful to see if it's got all the data you want before you actually waste paper. Now I'm going to go back to browse mode. When I re-enter the browse mode, you'll notice my buttons appear. So I'll just click data entry and it takes me right back. You cannot navigate in the preview mode unless it's automated. So if we're not automated, we manually choose the preview mode, you're kind of stuck there till you change the mode back to browse. Browse means it gives you the opportunity to move through records and screens. That's why you're going to spend most of your day in the browse mode. So we've gone over Go to Layout. So in each file, you'll have different layouts. There may be 20, 30, 40 layouts, different views of the data from that file. We don't touch these. View as form, view as list, view as table, leave it in form, as we do everything in form. The status toolbar is something you won't use, but I want you to know what it is. It'll show this area here. You can use it, but it eliminates part of the screen, so it is not helpful in my estimate. I just assume you have the full real estate of the screen. We give you the buttons, the same buttons that they give you in the status bar, generally. So you don't need to see, there's another view of the layouts, but you get it right here if you want it. So you don't really need it. So I recommend you keep the status toolbar closed because you don't need a toolbar. We've built in tools for you. There's also a formatting bar, which looks like this. I don't think you'll need that as well. It allows you to bold and non-bold text, but we've set the fonts, the text, the bolding and all that up for you ahead of time, the font size, the point size of the font. So we don't recommend you need this either. I just want you to see what they are so you can avoid them. Or if you end up in that by accident, you'll know where it is to get out of it. Ruler you don't need, that's for designing files. Zoom in and zoom out you could use here if you wanted. That just takes you to a bigger version. It went from 150 to 200%. You can also use these little buttons down here, the minus or plus, to zoom back down. It goes in increments of 50, and you could go as big or small as you want. We'll keep it at 150, or if you prefer to use it real small, you could have it at 100 or whatever you choose. And that can also be set up in the preferences. As you open the file, it pauses on the second screen and lets you set that preference of screen size so that it will set all 20-some files. It'll set them correctly for you at the same size. That's a nice feature. All right, so that takes care of the View menu. Let's go to Insert. We don't really need anything there. Now what you might use is a date. For example, you could insert the current date if you wanted in a field. And that's helpful sometimes. You can also click on these and it will give you a FileMaker drop down of a calendar that if you see the calendar icon here to the right, then you could click on that and that'll let you pick any date you want. I had 2 dates in there. That's why that was acting funny. Let's say I click in that and I click a date. It just puts it in there. If I want to delete it, I'll just take it out. So that's the insert. Most of those you don't need, but we like the picture, audio files, video files we'll go into in the version file tutorial where we do that with scripts where we automate it for you so you can click a button instead of doing it here. But this is how graphics and pictures, audios, and video can be put in, but we recommend you follow our format. You won't need fonts and sizes again. In most cases, you won't because we set that up for you. Now, this is a menu that you will use quite often. It's called the Records menu. Click on the Records menu. You'll get this drop down. Notice on the right, it gives you, Notice on the right, it gives you the keyboard command for this command. For example, under Mac, Command N will be a new record. That's a good, there's about 5 of them you should learn and memorize. New record, duplicate record, delete record, omit record is a good one, and sort, Command S. Those are good ones to learn. Under records, those are helpful. So anyway, a new record will give you a new record will give you a blank record. So you can just go through and type as you wish. Now, if you choose delete record, it allows you to delete this single record, just the one you're on currently. It'll always give you a dialog as a warning so that you don't delete something accidentally. If you're sure you want to get rid of it, you just click delete. There's also a record, a duplicate record. Say you have it doesn't work well with names so much, but say you were in another file and you need to duplicate a record and make something like a version. Say you had 3 versions of the same song. After you filled out all the data on the first one, you could duplicate the record and call it, the song might be called I Love You, and you could call it I Love You female version, for example. It's a duplicate of all the data. So it's helpful to know that you have a duplicate record rather than go in there and type in 100 fields of data. You have 98% of the data already entered under the male version or the first version, and you could just duplicate that and then select the title and change the title to female version, for example. That's an example of using duplicate record. Delete, we've gone over. Just if you delete a single record. Now, if you delete a found set, notice it does not have a command for it because it's more dangerous. You want to know what you're doing. The found set is the amount here, is the number of records shown here. We're looking at 1 record out of 30. We did a find for Twyla and it found 1 record. So if you were to delete the found set, which we're not going to do, it's going to bring that dialog up. If I click this, it could delete as many records as there are here. I'll hit cancel. So delete records lets you get rid of a found set. You can find a found set of old records or something you're wanting to parse out and get rid of and delete them. So you can get rid of multiple records that way. Go to record. That command is right here. You can go to any record you want using this black box here. So you don't need to use the dialog on that. refresh window. It just refreshes it. Show all records is the same as clicking this button that says show all. When I click that, you'll see it. This number will change. Let's click it. It found 30 because there's 30 records in the database, in the people file. So that's the same thing this would do. Show all records. Notice it's grayed out now because we found all the records. Now show omitted only is helpful. Let's do a find again. I'll do the keyboard command. We'll get a blank screen, and I'll paste Twyla's name in again, and we'll find one record. So it just found Twyla. It would find all the Twylas, by the way, if there were more in the database. Now we're looking at one record. So as I click through, I can't look at all 30 right now. Notice that. But if I look at what's called the omitted record, show omitted only, watch the number on the right change. Notice it changed to 29. So it was the 29 records that were not showing from the find before. It allows you to toggle back and forth, which is very powerful. So if I do it again, show omitted only, watch that box on the right, it's going to change back to 1. See this? Okay, so that's what show omitted only does. Now, omit a record will allow you to put the current record that you're on, and there's a keyboard command for it. If I choose this, it's going to take this record and throw it into the omitted set. So it won't be appearing anymore. So let's choose this. Watch what happens. It goes blank. Or it would show another record if there were more than one in the found set. Now it says there's 0 in the found set. So we still have all the records in the database. They didn't get deleted. They just disappeared from sight. Now we want to show all again, and they all come back. You could also omit multiple records if you want. Say you had 5 records, you could omit 5 records. So let's try it. Let's omit multiple. Let's choose 30. Notice it omitted them all, didn't delete them all, because if I delete them, they wouldn't come back. But if I click show all, they come right back. So keep in mind, this is a very powerful part of FileMaker Pro, the find command. And being able to omit records and show records gives you a lot of power. So we've omitted multiple, we've omitted records. It's very powerful when you have a found set and you want to go through and you go looking through and you go, I wanted all the Florida people, for example. Go, oh, or say I wanted all the Massachusetts people. And go, oh, okay, we got all the Massachusetts. Oh, there's a Florida. And you go, I don't want them in my found set, so I just want Massachusetts people. So I could go up and click or choose omit record, Command T on Mac, and now I have 29 records instead of 30, and I just have the Massachusetts records here. Notice that? Actually, there's more data in this in this found set, so there's more than just Massachusetts, but that's an example of it. All right. Now, modify your last find. You can choose that. That's a good one to know too. Command R on Mac. It will bring up the last find that you did. Might be 5 hours ago. The last find you did might have been a few hours ago, but it'll bring it back. And so now I hit enter and it brings back Twyla again. And notice I have 1 in the found set. So that's what modify your last find. It allows you to go into the find and change it. You could add other characteristics, other specs that you want. Here's some of your recent finds. There's Twyla's. If I choose it, you could choose different finds and use them. Sort records just does that. It sorts your records. Command S on Mac. There's also on some of our screens, you'll see this type of button right here. That is a sort button when you click it. Let's click show all. And if I sort by account number or contact. You'll see it does that by title. So if I show all, it puts them all in just their original order. I'm going to click on this. It'll take me to that record. And I'm going to find Twyla again by modifying my last find. There it is. Because it will remember it forever. Until you change the find again, it's going to remember your last find, which is helpful to know. So you can go Command R and you don't have to retype the name Twyla. It's also, you could do multiple finds. I mean, you could say, I want, for example, let's go to find mode. Find mode. I want all the, say, rock artists in Tennessee that are ASCAP members, or say, I don't know, or whatever. That's a union, I'm sorry, affiliation. Let's say they're ASCAP. And let's see how many we find. It found a couple. It found 2 people. So who do we find? Johnny Music and Twyla Fabulous. So the find and search capabilities of Filemaker Pro that are built into our Songtracker are very powerful. So I recommend you get to practice with this and utilize it. It's very powerful of being able to find all types of data. Now, once you find a found set, which is called a found set, a set of records, you can print a report with those records by just clicking the report button. Then you choose either a button or from a list, and you can print out a report. In this case, this is a different report, so by going greater than 0, it'll find everything that has a character in the line. So that's what that did. And then it creates the report, and I click continue, click print, and it'll let me print it out of the printer. And that's how it works. Now when I'm done, I click this and I go back to my previous screen. Now that wasn't Filemaker, that was more Songtracker, but we'll move on now. So scripts. Scripts are something you don't need to worry about this list particularly. There's hundreds of scripts here that are built in. They all have an abbreviation in the front: utility, sorting scripts, find scripts, record scripts, create scripts, navigation scripts, report scripts. Now, the only ones you really want to know are the key scripts in each file. The first 10 are accessible by keyboard command. So for Mac, for example, the command key and 1 would take you to the help rather than choosing it here. And they stay pretty consistent too. So like 1 is the help, 3 is the calendar. You'll get to learn some. The 4s go to a long list. So let's say I'm in a field like this field here, and I hit Command 1. So if I choose that field, it brings it up in the people file. And we'll cover more details of the help in the actual tutorial. There'll be a video tutorial on how to use the help file, which is very powerful. All right. So that's your scripts. Those first 10 are the only one I wanted to point out to you. The rest are all button driven, and the macros and automation will be done. Each time you click a button, it runs a script. Whatever button you're running, it's going to run a script. Okay? Tools you don't need to worry about in Filemaker. That's for designing solutions only. You're not going to be designing a solution. You've purchased a solution. Now, the window menu is very helpful. It can be. I mean, everything's button driven, so you should use these buttons to go from file to file. Like if you want to go to the catalog file or the license file, you'd click this. But you can also get there through the window menu. You can see all the open files that are current and go to a file that way if you prefer to. I click the target button and I go to home base. And from there, I'll click people, the file that I want to go to. So I clicked royalty. It took me over to the royalty file. You notice it always tells you the name of the file here, and that's a royalty file. I'm going to go back to people because we're not really getting into Songtracker yet. I just want you to know that things are button driven, that run scripts, and allow you to get to the various files in the system. Here are a list of all the open files. There's a couple that are hidden too that you can get to. You don't need these hidden ones particularly, but you'll know where they are. I don't even worry about all this stuff here. You can hide a window if you want. But you can hide a window also by clicking here. And that sends this file to the back, and whatever file is under it, for example, the next file would be royalties because we had that up last. Let's say I want to get back to the people file. I just clicked on home base over here and clicked on the data entry layout, and it took me back. So we've gone over all the menus in Filemaker, all these. You've got a basic idea of what you should use and what you shouldn't. There's some basic, the omit, the show all, there's some basic commands on each layout. You can get to scripts if you needed to. You can sort, hides the window. Now value list is something that would bring up the value list, which is the pop-up menus in this file, so that you can customize them. I don't recommend you customizing from here. It's possible. It's easier to customize from here on the field itself, because if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see the word edit. If you don't see the word edit, that means you're not supposed to customize this pop-up menu. Now, you don't have to customize these, but it's possible. So click edit, and then you can scroll up and down. If you want to change the way something's worded, you can. I don't recommend you do that right away, because you may change this category list, for example, thinking you want something else, and then 3 or 4 days later, 2 weeks later, you find that what you were thinking you needed in a different pop-up menu, and you just didn't know enough about the system to know where that was really needed. So we've thought this out quite extensively. Trust me on that. Don't change these until you understand what they are. If you really have a good handle on what the category is covering, then yes, you can go through there and add a couple things as needed. But you may find out later, oh, here it is, and I needed that. I needed a Christmas card list. Well, it was right here. Just as an example. So get to know your system and all your pop-up menus, and then you'll be better able to go through and click edit at the bottom and modify anything you might want to change. We tried to think of everything. Of course, we couldn't think of everything for everybody's work. We tried to have, for different types of jobs in the industry, you could clean these out. For example, if you're not interested in tracking radio stations, you could clean it out, but I don't recommend it, or mail lists, etc. I mean, you'll have to decide what's important to you and what's not. But if you're in doubt, leave it all for now, and you'll be better set. I think that's it for the Filemaker applications. So when you quit your files, you'll want to choose Quit Filemaker Pro Filemaker Pro, Command Q on Mac, and that'll shut down all the files each day. You can also do it, just for your knowledge, over here in the home base file. You can click the main button and click Close Files. Safely closes all files. Either way is fine. So here's what I want to explain. When you should back up your files at least twice a day, at lunch and at the end of the day. And to do that, be sure to first quit the files or close the files. Before, say you're going to lunch. Okay, just shut them down, and then we'll back them up. And all you do is when it closes the Songtracker folder, you'll find it on your hard drive. Maybe you keep it on your desktop. And you click on that once to highlight it, and then choose Duplicate, or Command D if you're on a Mac, for example. And what it'll do is make a duplicate copy of that whole folder, and there's 30-some files in there. It'll duplicate the whole folder and call it copy at the end. It'll copy of, or Songtracker Pro copy. So what I do is I throw it in the trash. I don't empty the trash. And then I have just my main folder that does not say copy. And then I duplicate the entire folder at lunch, and it creates a whole new folder of the same files and I've already shut it down. So any work that I've done is in the main set, the one that does not say copy on it. I rarely use the one that says copy on it. You always want to use the one that doesn't say copy. That way, that's your master set. You duplicate it, it says copy. So that's your backup, the one that says copy. The only time I use the copy is if I get a crash and the screen freezes. That doesn't happen very often in FileMaker. It's a very stable system. But if it does happen, you don't want to corrupt your files. And if you get a lot of crashes over the years, you're going to start corrupting your files more and more. I don't recommend you just reopen your files. At that point, I would go to the copy and re-enter any data I've done between now and lunch. It may be 3 or 4 hours of data, but that if it was a whole lot of data, it's hours and hours, okay, you can risk it and open the file again. But don't get in the habit of that. In other words, if you just added 2 people in there, go back and start with a pristine set of files, re-add those 2 people, and now you're giving yourself a pristine set of FileMaker files. That's key if you want to have a system that lasts 10, 20 years and you get a lot of use out of it. You don't ever you could always re-import your data back into a fresh set of files, but as an extreme backup. But that's going to be an hour or 2 of work. So I recommend you always back up your data by duplicating the main Songtracker folder each day, twice a day. You'll never get into trouble. If you just follow that guideline, you get in that habit, you're going to be much happier camper about it. So I think that should cover the basic FileMaker ideas of how to use FileMaker. You don't need to learn how to design it. You don't need to learn a lot of things, but those things that I showed you, I think will be helpful. You'll understand how FileMaker creates Songtracker and how Songtracker utilizes FileMaker Pro. All right. My name is Richard. I thank you for listening, and we'll have other tutorials available here. Thanks a lot.